Yeah, it could be anything. Okay. Yeah. So why?
Well, you can see if their knees are gaining, hip shifts.
And so would you recheck that kind of every so often?
Yeah.
All right. What else we got? So we got like a body weight squat. Do you guys have any strength exercises you like?
I like split stance squats because you can see whether they're able to track
Check.
their knees or if they cave in and
Yeah.
their hips.
Yeah. What else you guys got? Nothing?
Come up with anything like that.
Oh, has you got anything? Denise, you got anything? Erica? Beth?
I like planks because like just seeing like their core and like just seeing if someone can straighten out their body, but you could just like use arching or leaning this way and that way.
Yeah.
You already see so many imperfections with that, and you can't get that from like really any other ab
Yeah.
exercise.
Awesome. So it doesn't, you can pick whatever you like, all right? As long as it means something to you and maybe the person with you. So like, here's what we typically test, all right? For power, we have vertical jump or broad jump. For strength, we have a split squat, split stance one arm cable row, split stance one arm cable press. If we kind of crush these, right? So in some cases, like some of our kids are split squatting, holding 80, 90 pound dumbbells, and their hands just like can't handle it, right? So then we'll switch them to the trap bar. Or if they're, once they get to the split stance cable press, once they reach like their limit on that, the limiting factor is like this weight, like they can't lean it, they're not heavy enough to actually hold themselves, so then we go to bench press, all right? And we'll start testing those things. For max speed, we'll do our Woodway. For max power outputs, like sprinting stuff, we'll use a Spark. If we're looking for a max like aerobic stuff, we got a 1 mile bike, a 500 meter row. Sometimes we'll do a 5 minute, get as far as you can. Right? And then sometimes, depending on the sport, we may pick something that means something to them, or they're going to be tested on later. Right? So some of our college kids, we may use a hang clean because that's what they test in college, right? But that's not typically what we would gravitate towards here. So those are kind of our key performance indicators when we're talking about, how do we take them from our assessment process to then their training modalities, and how do we know if it's working or not? All right? So you guys kind of probably already do it already, and like, is there something you program in there like all the time?
Yeah.
Like what?
Bench.
Bench press, right? So if you're seeing that go up, you're kind of like, all right, we're going on the right track, right? It's the same thing, right? The other part, too, is especially like right now, we've got a good amount of soccer players that are finishing up a pretty kind of crazy, some of them like to ski, and they've been playing actually a lot more soccer. So like their knees are a little banged up. So right now, our indicator actually is, can they even just do a split squat without any pain, right? And then if they can, good, where were they loaded up from last time before they started their season? And those things kind of give you, again, another indicator is like, all right, have we been moving them in a direction that we want to go? So we're going to go over, we'll do the vertical jump today. We'll play with some split squats and some one-arm cable presses. If anybody wanted to trap bar deadlift, they could. We'll play with either the Woodway or the Spark, and we'll probably do the bike if we want. I want people to just to try it out. You don't have to like try to do you don't have to like be like, all right, heaviest split squat I've ever done today. But I want you to push a little bit just so we can start to see what it looks like. All right? And if you want to write stuff up on the board or a sheet of paper, you can. Okay? But it doesn't matter what you have for standards as long as, A, you keep tracking it. So if I do a split squat, but I never do it again, it means nothing to us. All right? And that's why I would probably say if we're writing programs for people, we want to have a built-in like testing period that you have that it reminds you, like, all right, we're going to do this again. All right? Or if you have an exercise that you know is the one that they like to do a lot, it should probably be in every program so you can actually mark and see where it's going. All right? Because the randomness of everything kind of leads us to be like, yeah, they may be feeling the variety, like, oh, I like this kind of new stuff all the time, but they don't know where they're at. Right? They have no clue as to whether they're being successful or they're going backwards or anything like that. So that's where I think a lot of times we get the entertainment idea out of it and it keeps people engaged, but long term, they're never really be like, well, yeah, I got a great result from that facility. They don't know. All right? So that's where some of these things come into play. Okay, so who wants to do some stuff? Who wants to do a vertical jump? Yeah, come on over here. Everybody's got to do one thing today. All right? So you got to pick one thing you're going to do. All right. So we have this. You can also what might be, so the interesting thing is like we have some kids that can touch the ceiling. So like that does absolutely nothing for us. All right. So we may at some point, if we keep going the way we are, we may get like a jump mat. Right. And the jump mat is you stand on it and then you jump and it times basically how long you are in the air for and then gives you a readout for it. Yeah. But if we were going to use this, we take one, we get next to it, we reach up. So our fingertips, right? We're not going up on our tippy toes, just kind of like right about there. So mine's 24, and then I jump up and place it, all right? If I get to 33, I basically got a 9-inch vertical, okay? So Brandon's going to reach his hand up. He's at 19, all right? So 35.
Actually, impressed with myself.
All right, so typically we'll give 3 tries. Make sure if you're down here using this, all the stuff is out of the way. Eric and I know, like we've seen kids, somehow they'll land on everything. They jump into the column, everything happens, right? And you're like, what the hell, right? It's insane. So you have to make sure everything's clear around it. Go ahead,
Do I
Darren.
have to be like super close?
Nope, you do whatever you want. All right, and I'll give you some points in a second. So 38. All right, so what were your original number was 18?
19.
Or 19. All right, so we're at 19 inches.
Oh, I pushed it down a little.
Yeah.
I definitely have 40.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You saw it, right?
All right, so relax. So rest for a second. All
My
right.
finger caught it. I definitely-
So is this like an exact is this an exact science? No, like there's a ton of stuff going on. So like what's crazy is like repeatable, right? We have kids that are like, they'll do this. And I'm like, dude, you're jumping away from them from like the wall. What's wrong? What are you thinking? Or they'll go, yeah, I'm like, that couldn't have felt good, right? So it's more of a skill in itself of just learning how to jump half the time than it is like actually executing it perfectly. So the one thing I will say, right, is as I get here and I want to go up and down, turning a little bit towards it, right, and just kind of going, you want your velocity to go pretty much up and a little bit closer to it. You don't want to be jumping away, and then so you only need enough space that you can swing your arm. Okay? There you go. 40 and a half.
Told you I had 40.
You said 42. To be fair, you said 42. You said,
I still hit the wall.
all right. Who else wants to try a jump? Why? Who gives a shit? All right. Can you touch the ceiling, Doug? Can you touch the ceiling?
It's supposed to be.
All right.
Spring. 3 months into rehab, 0 months into training.
Okay. So take the first one easy. Do not go. Don't try to jump full tilt. So we're good. Reach it up. No. Just you stay. All right. So Doug is going to be right around 27.
Already. Okay, so
I was at 19. So.
put it on the ceiling. Right.
So 40 and like a half, 40 and 3/4.
I got no spring right there.
41.
Yeah. It's not going to get much
Good. Who's up? We gotta get at least one female. Someone.
Jump in the body.
Yay!
I mean, the jumper's got it.
The jumper.
Old person.
Guys, you're only competing with yourself and everybody else I've seen jump. So you're at 20. Good. So grab it.
Spell backwards.
32. So you're at 12. I don't think that actually shows this part.
That's what happened to me one time when I did that. I couldn't get it to stick.
It was attacking me. Oh, maybe I have a...
It was attacking me. I know, those vicious magnets. It's horrible. So
felt like I put it as I'm
So again, it's a skill, right? You want to be able to hit it at the peak, and that's what you typically will see. Like one of yours, that's what happened. You kind of you're up there, and then you're like, now I got it. All right, so try one more, and then you can be done. There you go, 14, good. All right, so that's our power. So if we have someone that can touch the ceiling, we have to test their broad jump because I can't measure it. We used to have the push band, which would measure kind of similar to the jump mat, but they updated the app, and now the old thing doesn't work, so it's a piece of crap for us.
So the power be consistent to a broad jump.
So for our standards, right? So for what we want to see in our athletes, so I have a decent amount of data to show that if I can get a girl soccer player to jump, I think they are at 15 inches or 14 and a half inches, and run around 16 on the woodway and be able to split squat like 40-pound dumbbells in each hand for 8 reps each leg, we've got like all of our bases covered for them to be physically capable to easily handle high school sports. All right, because the majority of them, when they come in, they barely can hold like 15s or 20s in their split squats. They're usually jumping around 11, right? And they're running around like 12 to 13, okay? So based on what we've seen from the best players and also kind of like our average, that's typically where I want them to go. What does that mean for a 45-year-old person? Doug, how old are you, 50?
50, almost 51.
Yeah, 50-year-old person, I don't know. I don't really have enough data to compare it to, right? So the broad jump is usually you want them to be able to jump their height. Okay? So if they can do that, we're pretty good. So
I probably could, but I mean, if I
So you need to roughly jump around 66 inches. Yeah, but that's not it. That's 8 feet down there.
You'll easily get that.
So get your toes right up to the tape.
You'll be over 7 feet. It's like right here. Oh, right there.
So yeah, all right. So again, so for the most part, I know that.
A lot longer than I
Well, so here's the thing: is what we typically know again is if for my high school soccer guys, I want them jumping around. If they can get to like 18 inches, we're probably pretty good. And again, like, do you jump really that much in soccer? It's like no, but it's like our indicator. But even still, right? You're doing that maybe a couple times a game. If I know that they've got at least lower body power, can they sprint? Usually want them above 16 and a half to 17, and then I want them split squatting at least 50s in each hand. All right. If we get those things covered, we're probably going to be on a safe side that they have the physical qualities to play the game and do really well. Okay.
So, do you see a difference in your athletes that are more compressed compared to loosey-goosey in these tests?
Here's the interesting part, right? They go about it differently.
Okay.
So I have what you'll see in some of like our like looser athletes that show like a lot of range of motion. Things just kind of go where they want. So it might look like this when they jump, right? And everything kind of collapses. Or the guys that are a little bit tighter, they don't go down as low, right? They're just, and they're gone, right? So it just depends. I wouldn't say one's better than the other. I mean, typically, if I had to really think about it, the kids that we see that are a little bit more compressed are going to be our better athletes, just because they can put more force into the floor.
That was
Yeah.
going to be my next question. Since I'm in more of a
Press.
state all
Yes.
the time, do you think that would be the reason why I need to do certain things compared to others?
So yes, right? It should give you the ability to demonstrate some like really high force outputs. It comes at a cost, right? Which you know too. So like if I said, Brandon, let me see you do a 5-10-5 agility, right? Where you got to run, cut, turn, run back, cut, and then run through again. Compared to maybe one of our kids that can turn better because they're not as compressed, I would say you'd probably get smoked. But if I said run straight ahead, you're probably all right. Okay, so it depends on, and this is where we always got to keep to some of the stuff we're looking at for our athletes. I only want to give them enough of the strength stuff and the power and some of those things as much as they need because their sport requires them to turn. And for me, in order to turn, like you remember how we were doing this stuff, actually, which we'll go over at the end, that's what we're restoring. So if they can't kind of get this to happen, then, no matter how strong they are, unless they're maybe the guy that just runs into people, maybe they're a defensive lineman, that might work. It kind of robs them of some other stuff. All right. So you guys got to try either the split squat, the one-arm cable row, or the one-arm cable press. Which one are you going to do?
I'm not doing the bike.
I don't care.
Pick one. 3, 2, 1, split squat. Denise, what are you going to do? Cable row. What are you going to do? Split squat. Get on. Beth, what are you going to do? You can do something easy. I would say either the row or the press. Okay. All right. So, here's what we're going to do. All right. So with our split squats, our rows, and our cable presses. All right. We typically will go with something easy for 4 each, and then we'll go with something pretty much, if we have a pretty good idea of where they should be at, something hard for 8 each. If you have no idea, go with something like, pick something that you think is a little heavier than that, and again, go to like 6 each and see where you end up, and then the last set should end up at 8 each leg, all right, or 8 each arm. And it should be hard in that, I can't probably get 1 or 2 reps more, okay? So with our split squat, we'll typically use a yoga block as a guide, right? So we'll be here. We're going to kind of drop down and then go up. All right? I'm not like that knee had better hit that yoga block, but like that doesn't count. All right? And again, maybe that looks like that a little bit, and you're like, I don't know if I like that. So we'll typically do 4 each leg as an easier warm-up, then push to something if we don't know where they end up or supposed to be. Because like if I know Erica actually proved me that she's actually somewhat strong, it was surprising. Somewhat strong. So would you held 30s? Yeah. 30s on her RFEs. So I know she could probably start with the 15s or 20s as her warm-up for 4 each, okay? And then she should probably try 35s maybe for her 8 each. So we already have a pretty good idea. For someone that we've never done anything with before, and we don't really have a good representation of where they're starting, go light, make sure they look pretty good, keep them safe, and then start to progress them. So what do you think you would start with?
No clue. I hate split squats. My knees kill.
So why would you pick split squats?
Because then you can find something like.
All right, so we'll watch. Elisa, go first. Start with the 5s, right? Because start with 5 pounds. Go ahead. I know. All right.
No, because I feel like I need to learn something about myself.
Does it hurt or does it just click? Okay. Good. Switch legs. All right, Lisa, do one more and think about which leg feels like it's getting more pressure. So go ahead. Do again. Do one more. All right, good. So good. Which leg feels like it gets more pressure going back up?
That before you said to think about it, probably the left.
The back leg.
Yep.
Good. Put that back. All right. And this typically what you'll see, especially with people that have a hard time getting into that front leg, it'll look more like this. Right? So I'm really actually not doing really anything on this front leg. Yeah, it's me just bending this backward and then locking that knee out. That's a really tough position for that back leg to be in, right? It's in full hip extension. I've got this whole thing kind of getting stretched out or expanding. And then sometimes you'll see them even up like this. And now I got everything getting pushed. And there's like that. And like, whew, I feel that really burning on that back leg. That's where we want to make sure we should see that front knee track forward a little bit. So then I know they've actually got this load. And then I'm coming straight up. Okay? Erica, what are you going to use? 20s. Go for it. Good job. On the RFEs, yes. Okay. On our split squats, we're probably looking closer to like 60-40.
Okay.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. Yeah. Hercules. No, go for it. No one's ever seen a Nutty Professor? All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, good.
At the dinner table?
Yeah.
Do you care where the head's looking?
So, good. Put it back. Not the end of the world, right? Did it change really too much of anything else?
I don't know. What could it have been better?
So did you have any discomfort? Awesome.
Were you looking down because of the block?
I always like look down when I do.
I feel like the block was thrown.
Me off.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe. If all of a sudden it pulls everything with them, which you'll get, right? Because what you'll see is a lot of times people, especially as it gets heavy, they'll want to feel like they're moving through space. So what happens is like, man, my leg is getting really, like, I went down, I went and got lower, but I didn't use my legs, right? I just pitched forward. So if all of a sudden you see something that they're doing that, and it's like now I'm getting this like whipping action from my spine, probably not the best idea. All right, so what are you going to try? You just did 10s?
Yes.
How hard were they?
Not.
Like super, pretty easy, right? So try 20s. What are you going to try next?
She told me 30.
Huh?
35.
How many?
So do 4 each leg.
Okay.
All right, and if you feel,
Start without and
yeah,
see if-
yeah, and if you feel like you can keep going, keep going. Right? Feel that front foot pushing into the floor to push you back up. Yep. Those look good. Keep going.
Do you care how much they lock out at the top? Because I see a lot of athletes, like, they toe off at the back just to try
Just got to
and
get that last little bit.
back there.
They're trying to create some stiffness and stability. So,
You know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
always feel like when you're here, you're
Yeah.
done.
what'd you think?
Okay.
Did your knees feel okay?
Yeah.
Good. Put them back. Did you notice any difference pushing through that front foot harder?
I was just paying attention.
All right. So if I really, like when we're thinking about split squats particularly, I really want to feel that front leg, like this whole thing, getting a good amount of work, right? So as I come down, I want to feel this heel and like big toe kind of pushing me back up, okay? Doug's point is like, should they lock out that back knee? I typically would say no, right? Because if I lock out, I'm also going to drive my weight back. Because if I lock it on both, I'm going to shift back. As soon as I change my center of gravity, I'm probably going to do one of these. All right, so I want to stay here. I'm going to drop straight down, push up, find that spot where I can feel like, again, I'm back up tall, and then go back into it. All right, what are you going to try, 30s or 35s? You don't have to go crazy. Sure, try it. Yeah, you can use kettlebells. All right, so that's the other thing, too, is a lot of times they like the kettlebells more because they're not ripping their hands apart. So let's play with it. Erica. Look at the horizon, right? Yeah, and see if it makes any difference.
Yeah, it's harder.
All right, so try the other leg. You're good. Good, put it back. Yeah, I'll tell you when to stop, all right? So what'd you notice? What was getting tired on you?
My hands were like dragging down.
All right, what about your legs?
They weren't that bad. But it was like harder to look up
Why?
because I felt like I was going down more.
So again, it gives her the sense like she's moving further.
Right.
Right? And then all of a sudden, because this is upright, it doesn't let her maybe get like that last little bit
Right.
to get down.
There's probably a mental component too. Also, if she's looking for that,
Yeah.
she doesn't know where the bottom
My
is.
bad. Correct.
You
All right.
know, so it's like, am I there? Am I there? Am I there? Am I there?
So it's what are you gonna say?
So like push ups when people are doing their
Yeah, right. They want to do this. And it's like, well, your chin's at the floor, right? And the rest of your body's still like in space. Do you want to try to go a little heavier? Try 25s and see what you think.
Somebody like for someone like myself or somebody who has
Yes.
That's going to fire the posterior chain, which is going to be more stress.
Correct.
Like, that's where
Correct.
I'm
If you're
She can
trying to
get
flex
away
it,
with
yeah,
But some people aren't.
you're gonna be able to do it. Agree. Yep.
Of course, I was just looking down too.
That's okay. Right. Just I like that cue of you to keep pushing through that front foot, right, and that's where you're gonna feel most of your pressure.
A harder time on this side. Like the black. See, I don't think I can do those because this
Toe, right? Okay. Good. Lisa, put it back.
No, on my on that side wasn't so good.
What'd you notice?
I felt like my hip wanted
To slide out. Okay. Do you guys notice as I got heavier, both started to kind of get a little, right? And again, it's not the end of the world. Right? As you get heavier, you're probably going to see some crazy stuff, right? And the whole point, if we're, and this is where it's tough in our profession because a lot of times we judge whether or not we're successful based on those numbers, right? So if all of a sudden, man, they did 55s, but it looks like crap, like we're still successful. And sometimes it doesn't matter, right? Like they don't get hurt. They're still like, yeah, like we've seen horrible squats and the person walks out like, yeah, I'm okay, right? And so the goal is use your eyeballs, make sure it doesn't look like such dog poop that you're like, holy crap, this person's really gonna screw something up. And again, if they come out and they're like, yeah, my knee was like, or my hip didn't feel right when I was doing that, all right, we probably need to adjust a little bit, all right, or stop it. So we typically use a split squat also because everybody pretty much can do that from day one, all right? It's harder to get someone to maybe squat heavy with, goblet squats are somewhat easy, but like if we were talking more of like a traditional sense of like front squatting or back squatting, there's a lot of skill in that just in itself that you have to teach, and it makes it a little bit tougher to start testing right away and getting like an appreciation of where they're at. All right, so Denise and Beth, you guys are over here. We're going to go a split stance, one-arm cable row. All right, so we'll go, if my right arm is on the cable, we'll go right leg back. I'm going to soften just a little bit, and I'm just pulling to here. Right, so you guys will do 4 each arm on something kind of easy. So you can both can try 15. All right, and then you guys can work up to something a little heavier. Yep. So Denise, you don't even need that much of a split squat. You can, yeah, you're just going to get in this position and soften a little bit. Yep. Correct. All right. If someone said, "Oh, you know what, my shoulder bugs me, and I can do it this way," that's fine. Yeah. But typically, we'll always go with our neutral here, with grip with this, and also for our press. All right. So what would you go for a little bit heavier? Denise, what do you think?
What are we at?
We're at 15. Yeah.
Would you go to 25?
Start at 25.
Yeah. You could. So if you feel like it was super easy, yeah, jump it up. Go for it. You're not gonna blow out your.
I'm pregnant, by the way, so.
And I'm old. She's pregnant. I'm old. There you go.
Brandon, I didn't say anything. I just turned.
All right. So now you're trying to get around 8. If you feel like you can get more than 8, go a little bit heavier. Beth always comes with excuses. Seriously.
If I can get, well, I got
8.
there. So if I got 8 there,
Did you do the other arm too?
no.
Try the other arm. See what you think.
Don't do these, I don't have this at home, so I don't know where.
Well, so are those lifting shoes?
No.
So this is probably good. Just finish out and get both on this side. What do you think? Pretty easy?
Not easy, but
How many more reps could you get than 8?
I could probably do 12, 15.
Good. Go heavier. Yeah. You don't have to like go crazy.
I want to see right
Okay. All right. All right. All right.
So what do I want to be exhausting at 8?
No, yeah. I mean, you maybe have like 1 or 2 reps left. All right, and so why would we use a split stance? A split stance makes us all of a sudden recruit a lot more trunk anti-rotation stuff, and it kind of gives us, again, another appraisal of can they kind of hold themselves up against this gravity spot. So like a bench press is another good option, but I'm lying on my back, right? If I'm thinking more athletic based, I like this a lot more.
That's 8 there.
Perfect, and switch.
I'm like, I'm starting to lose my balance, but I'm not.
And this is what happens, right? If I wanted to get, like some of our kids are actually pulling close to 60, 65 pounds, And all of a sudden, like just to resist the weight, I've got like everything back, and then they're pulling. Once they start to like, they're like this to just to hold against it, it's like, yeah, we're done with that test, right? You've obviously maxed it out. Denise, what'd you think?
I was feeling that.
Awesome.
I could do a little bit more, but I wouldn't be able to get 8.
Perfect. So then we kind of found, all right, where we're starting point at one of our indicators. So the other cool part of this too is like you don't have to just train that one thing. My other stuff, if I'm doing one-arm dumbbell rows, if I'm doing pull downs, all those things, as long as I kind of have a general idea of where I'm pushing them and I come back, this should probably get stronger, right? It's the same thing with like if I'm testing bench press, any type of dumbbell work, any type of floor presses, any type of incline work should still get my bench to go higher if I'm moving in the right direction, right? So then
And that goes back to your point before of it allows variety of the workouts.
Yeah.
So you can keep them entertained. Like that's what we're doing down in Cheshire is we switch up every month, but then we come right back to the same thing, just like what you do with the programming up here. That way you've got something that you can compare apples to apples to see the progress, but you also are giving them something that
Yes.
keeps them entertained because
that's part of it, right? And it's interesting because like I look at like Mike Boyle's programming, and part of it is I wonder if it's because they have larger groups, right? So I think they have close to like 15 or 20 kids in a group, and they all do pretty much kind of the same stuff, right? And it's just like their progressions are very small, and I wonder if there's like I don't know, I feel like our kids would maybe get bored with it or something like that, but because maybe there's a large group and it's like a little bit more exciting and they're in a big facility, like they don't mind it. I mean, it's what happens in college weight rooms. Like those guys aren't changing things too much.
So we don't do a lot of progressions with this. And what I've noticed is they are enjoying. Like we're teaching them to spot each other.
Yes.
And to do those.
Yes.
So that
There's
way
other
there's a
interactions.
Team
Yep.
interaction
Yep.
piece of it to try and keep it also.
Correct. So again, it depends on what your environment is, what you like to do, what the person needs, what they want, and stuff like that. You can kind of tailor this. Available to you, correct. So then our last thing that we do is a split stance press. So we're same thing here, we're just reversing it, and we're doing that 4 reps and then 8, and we'll test that. All right. Yes, you have to be. All right, because otherwise that thing will. Because like the last thing you want is this, and then in the shoulder. Like look at where that shoulder is. It's the same thing at the hip, right? What we were talking about when I'm going down and I'm doing that, that's like the same idea, right? If anybody wanted to do the bike, they can. I'd rather actually do what we were working on this week. So one of the things that we've been playing with after watching one of those videos is this sideline like shifting exercise. It seems to really restore stuff quickly, make people feel really good, and it also gives you an appraisal for their breathing. All right, so I would rather roll up a pad, but I'll just show you with the foam roller. So what we're going to do is we've got our knees at 90, hands are out, and all you're going to do is inhale and then exhale. Inhale.
Hips and rib cage locked.
Yep. All right, and you notice, if you guys can hear me breathing, it's just an easy exhale, pause for a second, and then in through the nose silently.
Is there a reason you don't put a block between the knees or ankles like the other side?
So we're not necessarily trying to drive like internal rotation. You could put something between their knees to help it slide a little bit easier. The big thing is don't use a ton of muscle, right? You're not trying to like push it forward. You're finding this very easy rotation back and forth, right? And again, the breathing part is what is crucial. I don't want to be like every time. It should just be this nice, smooth rotation, roll forward, and then this nice, smooth, everything kind of comes back, right?
You're using this on more of the narrow,
We're using this on everybody.
everyone.
Yeah. So it helps basically, again, get us to turn. All right. So like if you think about all like what you were talking about, like a right side lying adductor pullback, right? I'm trying to shift things back into that hip. Ultimately, I'm doing the same thing. I'm getting the rib cage and the pelvis to turn all in one direction and then be able to come back. All right. So let's grab a pad, grab a foam roller. I'm going to start a timer All right, for like we'll do 3 minutes, and I want you guys just to be conscious of your breathing and
I got to get it.
looking good.
Yeah.
You and Callie are like right at the dead same spot. She's
Just like talking the last.
yes, that's exactly her to take.
What, is there a specific breathing cadence you want? Or just
So you guys will figure it out. I will say you want to go as slow as you can. All right? Keep slowing it down. All right? So ribs are kind of tucked a little bit.
nose, mouth?
Nose, all try to go through all through the nose. All right? Head doesn't really move, right? We're just kind of spinning. We're just sliding the hands forward, the knee forward, and then just sliding them back. Don't move your feet, right? Your feet shouldn't move. All right? Bring your knees up to a 90-degree bend, hip at a 90-degree bend. So I'll start the timer. All right? And you're just going to breathe in, pull everything back, hip and shoulder come back. Exhale, slide everything forward. All right? You're not trying to reach.
So you want the
Yeah. Yep. Sure, you ready? Good. Inhale. Exhale.
I'm gonna lose the roller.
So don't go as far up here, right? Just kind of keep it easy. All right, and then go even slower. So slow down your inhale. Just a smooth, silent inhale. And then a smooth, silent exhale and slide it forward. All right, if you can, keep slowing it down. Keep using less muscles. Just get it to kind of roll a little bit. Too low?
No.
See if you can pause after that exhale and then go back.
I did it a little bit.
What'd you notice?
It's a different, what?
What'd you notice?
I want to make sure that I'm not doing anything
Mm,
to screw up my rehab.
Yeah.
It's just, 3
When-
minutes of something I haven't done
Yeah.
before could feel fine now. And
I agree. I'm
later,
sorry.
it could
What did you notice when you're actually doing it?
I was just focused on making sure that these things were staying together and moving. But I haven't been in a 90-90 position where I'm doing
Yeah.
if everything I'm doing now is about staying like this.
Yes, the old Tin Man.
Seriously, that's what, these are my exercises.
Yep. Guys, you got 1 minute. All right, so again, try to slow it down even further. You're just going to slide it forward. Feel everything roll. And then you're going to inhale, and you're just going to pull it back easy.
Are you going to talk at all about the video you sent us about how the step up and then the chop helped?
Oh, shit, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe not today.
Because I was trying to figure it out. I'm like, how does that chop have anything to do with it?
Good, guys, relax.
Because
All right.
the chop wasn't rotational.
Yeah,
it was just
yeah.
stability.
All right. Noelle, what'd you notice? Anything?
I could feel it in my
Inner thigh.
Me too.
Okay.
And I was trying to relax it and trying not to use it, but you got to use it.
I feel good afterwards.
Lie on it.
Just relax.
Relax. All right. So ultimately, that's kind of what we're trying to get is that relaxation, right, and being able to spin this stuff back and forth. All right. So if I'm getting my inner thigh, like for some people, what they'll notice is that when I roll this way, I feel a little stretching on my left outer hip, right? Because I'm rolling my pelvis over that left thigh. It's the same thing as if I was doing like an SSLDL on this side. I'm going to have to open up that posterior spot. If I'm feeling it on your inner thigh on the top leg, right?
Yep.
So then maybe you guys would be the ones that need something in between to create a little more space. So maybe you'd put like a ball or something right there so then it can kind of keep it popped up a little bit.
I noticed with me, it was still kind of hard inhaling that slow.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like that's something I have to get used to.
You guys didn't notice anything about the breathing stuff? Huh? Good. All right, because that's more important than anything else. Because no matter what, if all of a sudden it's easy to see where now maybe somebody has like a challenge because they're like, before they even get out there. Like they're already trying to breathe back in. It's like, you can't do that, right? Because we know that we're going to be automatically starting to hyperinflate or try to get air in really quickly and use something.
Do it.
Yeah.
It's just, I feel it's starting to become a challenge as I like it. I almost want to like kick those muscles back on. It's me like fighting it.
So that's an awesome insight, because what it tells you is because Brandon's probably super tight in spaces, which we know, he's got to use other superficial muscles to create it, right? So if I have a really tight compression here, I probably got to get air by going, right? And I got to get everything to go up because I can't go front to back. I've got too much pressure on both sides, right? And that's when you can start to see like, oh yeah, now I maybe know why maybe his traps are constantly a little on, or he gets maybe headaches sometimes when he gets stressed out or stuff like that. Or even why my shoulders don't move very well because I gotta compress someplace else to kind of open up another spot, right? So Doug was talking about a video where we were using chops. So it goes to, and we'll talk for like 2 minutes on this, because this is something that's been interesting. We've been playing a lot with it. So it was in relation to Connor, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so remember when we were looking at Connor, his knees were like bugging him all the time, and tons of range of motion. So I asked a question to those guys like a couple weeks back on why would you see this stuff, and we talked about the untwisting of the ligaments around the hip, right? If I've got a pelvis that's rolled all the way forward, it untwists it, and that's where you get this like crazy range of motion. So he was like, all right, if you want to figure out how to get them back, right, you have to reestablish a pelvis, and then you got to get them to figure out how to hold it against gravity. And in some cases, right, you have to start maybe side lying or supine, right? If I have someone that's rolled forward, where do you think they're compressed? Right there, right? So we need them to actually push stuff backwards. And one of the other things too is if we know that they're compressed someplace down here, they're probably also compressed someplace up here because we get that like kind of mirroring effect down the chain. So if it was a narrow, we might use a supine cross connect. If it was a wide, we might use a sideline kind of like cross connect or foot propulsion thing. So what we've been playing with is stuff that looks like this, all right, and pushing into the wall, and then just kind of finding some pressure and turning this hip a little towards that knee, all right, keeping the ribs down and then breathing. If I was to do it on my back, I would put maybe something like a foam roller underneath my right leg. I'd bring this up, it'd be here, and I'd kind of hold this. Right, and I kind of feel some pressure into the wall here. I should feel some tightening up through here, and then I've got my upper back. You can add an armbar rotation there, right? You've been using that a good amount. So once they get through that, it's like, all right, well, now what? Well, if they can't, where I got stuck, I'm like, well, they're still not good standing up, so what do you do next? And he was like, well, what would you use? I was like, half kneeling. And he was like, well, they probably suck at half kneeling. And I was like, yes. The person I was describing, like, they definitely suck at half kneeling, right? It's always like, and they just can't figure it out. So then you would go to rolling, right? And that's where all of a sudden we can use an arm bar where I'm here, and that restores some of the stuff we were just doing. It's the same thing, right? We're just getting it to move a little differently and coming back, okay? Way back in the day, FMS, like all those guys, had a whole series on rolling patterns. It works. Again, it's just like, where do you apply it? Because in some cases, it's like, well, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It doesn't do crap. And then in other cases, it made people move like miraculously. All right? So some of the ways you would do it is if I'm testing a lower body one, I would go like this. I don't really want to use my arms. Then come over and come back. If I wanted to do an upper body one, I'd go here. All right. So those are some of the other ideas you can use for rolling. Once they establish that, then you might try half kneeling. What we went right to was after doing the floor stuff. We did a couple of the rolling stuff. I wasn't like, all right, this isn't bad. We started using a cable lift and chop. All right. So what you can do now, so come on over here. All right, so this is where some of these things become really crucial if I have someone that is still having a tough time with maybe managing gravity, I can unload them by using a chop. All right, so Denise, you would probably be a good example for this one, right? Because it's your left knee.
My right knee I did, but my left.
Okay, so come on over here. All right, so if we want to figure out how Denise can kind of get her center over that leg so that she can put force into it without maybe using a strategy that's like really late propulsion or maybe too early or something like that, we can pull this in, hold it, and what it's doing is it's actually lifting her up. Right? Because I'm pushing down, it wants to pull me up. And now she can maybe find, oh yeah, I can feel my foot on the ground, and I'm on my left leg. I should feel this whole thing doing some work. All right?
Does it depend on how high that chest will be? Or?
Yeah, so like I have some older people that can't get their leg up there. Yes. Right, and here's the thing. So it doesn't, it depends. In some cases, we may flip it around, but for now, this is it. So right now, Denise has everything pushed forward. All right, so Denise, I want you to slide this leg back. Keep coming, keep going. No. So your hip, sorry, my bad.
Oh, my hip.
Yep, so get tall. All right, now bring everything back. So don't push your butt back. Bring your torso back. There you go. Now straighten this leg out. So bring these arms all the way over. There you go. Start to get as much weight in this foot as you can. Feel your left heel. Straighten this leg out even more.
I don't think it can get any straighter.
All right, so I want you to get as tall as you can. All right, so now let your ribs just kind of soften. Yeah. And I want you to bring your ribs back that way. So you're going to keep this here. Yep, keep coming back, keep coming back. Good. You start to feel more weight in that left leg?
Yes.
This guy should almost be able to get picked off the box pretty easily, correct?
Yep.
Good. How hard is this working?
I feel it, yeah.
What do you feel?
In my quad.
Right, so we should feel, yeah, it's on. Right, you feel anything back here?
Not particularly.
All right, we probably should get a little bit of that
Yes.
butt working a little, okay? So the more you push through this foot and get up even taller, so you're going to get even taller by pushing the hip forward and locking that out, you should feel this guy work a little harder.
Yes.
All right, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Yes. All right, we do want to keep it straight. Yeah, so the foot that's down. But we're just going to try something different.
My left toe is straight. Gotcha.
So yes, right, you'll see a difference, right? Because if I'm like this, it's going to change exactly like where I'm going to start to put force, okay? So I want you to flip around to this side. We're going to do the same leg. So left leg's going to be down, except now you're going to pull it to your chest and hold it.
Okay.
All right? And so I'll tell you what I was trying to get you to do. Like, so you see where my body weight is?
Yep.
See how it's all forward?
Yes.
I want you to keep coming back until you feel like, man, that leg is directly underneath me and I am like locked solid into it.
Okay.
So like right now, would you guys say my ear, shoulder, hip, knee, and ankle are all aligned? Yeah. I feel my left foot pushing very hard into the floor. This guy is completely unloaded, okay?
And I would look forward and
Waiting, now you're
Loading, yes. Now we're getting to pull her down into that.
I was out like this.
A little bit, yeah, so good. Keep your foot straight.
Okay.
So would you use a lower bench for her because she's having a little bit harder time getting
Maybe. So keep it right to your chest. No, like right here.
Oh, right
there you go,
here.
yeah.
Okay.
All right, and then find that left leg pushing hard into the floor and get tall. All right, and give me a couple breaths there. Like nice full exhales. All right, nice silent inhale. How hard is that leg working now?
Feel it, yeah.
All right, so just get a couple more breaths there. All right, and show us. Can you just pick that knee up a little? Yeah, there you go. Good.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, good. So relax for a second. So now, same thing. Now I want you. So I want you to turn a little bit and press it up.
Turn and
Yep.
just hold it up.
Yep, hold it there. So lock these guys up. Good. Find that left leg again. Right? Ribs are down a little bit. So give me a nice full exhale. Right? Keep pushing, keeping straightened. Right? Let this kind of, you want to breathe out, Denise, and kind of let that rib roll down a little bit. Yep. And that should put more pressure into that left foot. 3, 2, 1. So what'd you notice when you pushed your arms up?
Firing back here.
Get their butt to fire.
Yes.
Okay? So, it feel good?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so just like walk a little bit and tell me what you think about.
I still feel the toe.
Okay.
Is that what we're trying?
No, I just want to know what you feel. So if you were trying to do a split squat, right? So do your split squat.
With this one back?
Yeah, and just see what you think.
I know I'm going to be out. Yeah, I feel it immediately.
All right, so then relax.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel
But you can, like, here's the thing is, we also know that if she can't get big toe extension, the chances that she's getting a lot of glute firing is probably a little bit less too, okay? But that might be a way to recapture her to figure out, man, how do I get this leg to get back on and load it directly over it so then I can push myself back to the other side, all right? So that's what we're using. And all of a sudden, we had one of our athletes who has had chronic like knee pain since April. We used a split squat, and she goes, no, that didn't hurt at all, right? And she was like surprised. She's like, let me do it again. And she did it again, and that's all we did. So we were able to figure out how does she actually load that leg properly, yeah, without using a compensatory strategy. Yeah. So you can use, again, the chop. So like Tim, right, our 83-year-old guy who's got an ankle brace because his foot is like this, replacement on his left knee. We use the chop first. We got him to actually be able to unload it enough. He had a very hard time getting his foot up there, partly because he stands like this and does that. Tim, get your feet together. Pick your leg up. Oh, that's much better, right? So, but it teaches him how to find a center of gravity. Chopped, held it there for a couple breaths, came down, did like 2 other things. I told you, he literally goes over to the middle of the turf and goes and runs. Like, I haven't done that in 20 years. And I was like, all right, well, obviously it feels good. So those are the types of things where all of a sudden we can start to learn how do we get like a propulsive push into the floor where everything kind of where we need it to give them then the variability to adjust. So we've been using those quite a bit with some of our kids too. Okay?
So can I just ask one question?
Go for it.
So when I'm working one-on-one, all these different things can come into play. When I've got a small group session with 3, you don't get as much individual. How do I find the space or time or even the know-how that I've got to do this? Because I can't see her while I'm seeing her and her.
Okay, so remember what he was saying in the video of like, you're just going to try to like pick. So like, I will say, and Erica sees this all the time, like, I was like, okay, come over and try this, right? And they try it. I'm looking for something specific. I don't get it. Awesome, move on. Go do your other exercise, all right? And it's just kind of like a quick test to see. They're telling me something. I have an idea of like what I want to go with. So like yesterday we had 2 of our soccer players that both came in with like knee pain, all right? And we tried like a couple things. One of them made him feel a little bit better. Is actually one of the side lying propulsion ones. She got up and she's like, no, it feels pretty good now. But right 2 seconds later, it like hurt her again. I was like, all right, let's just not do stuff that hurts it. And that was it. And then like I'm thinking about it now in our next program. We may adjust some stuff. We may try some things. But it's more of just you have your general game plan of stuff you know they can do. If all of a sudden you're trying to get something out of them and it's not working, maybe I see something that's like, again, this knee is just kind of like something like that. You know what? I want you to be able to feel that leg. How can I get you to do that? Let's try to unload you first and see if you can even find it. If you can, awesome. Let's try to load you and see if you can find it. And then you can start to play with stuff. If they can't even get in that position, maybe we need to go to the floor, right? I need to take gravity away, get you on the ground, do stuff like that. That's where, like to Elisa's point earlier, it's like I can give you guys a template of stuff. You don't know where you're going to start until you actually do some stuff, test, and then figure it out. And that's the assessment. The assessment kind of gets you in that starting course. And then it's kind of like, all right, you guys, you figure out how'd you go. I can't tell you in the past year how many programs I've written and never changed a thing on them. It's like 0. Like there's always one thing where I'm like, I think this is the right thing, and then all of a sudden, like maybe in the second week, they're like, yeah, you know, this is starting to creep up. I'm like, crap, we'll make our adjustment. We'll go back to doing what we did that worked before, or hey, let's try something and move on. Who knows? Because it's a complex system. The only ones that typically we get through everything is usually the kids that like will plow through and like sometimes don't feel anything, and then like 2 weeks they're like, yeah, my knee's been like bugging me for 3 weeks. It's like, all right, yeah, it doesn't say anything. Or they're young enough that they recover quick enough and they don't really notice it. And in some cases we pick the right stuff and they do really well, and then you're like, all right, and then the next month they're like, yeah, this doesn't feel great. Okay, let's figure it out. So we're always on a moving scale.